Here's something that might surprise you. One of history's greatest philosophers was actually imprisoned by his family for a year just for wanting to become a monk. Today we're exploring how Thomas Aquinas' dramatic life story shaped his revolutionary ideas about faith and reason.
That's fascinating, and what's even more interesting is how his family tried everything to change his mind, even sending a woman to seduce him away from his religious calling.
You know what's wild about that story? He reportedly drove her away with a burning piece of wood from the fireplace. And this same man went on to write some of the most influential works on human reason and spirituality ever produced.
It really shows the intensity of his convictions. But what draws you to his story in particular?
Well, I've been studying this 9-day devotional practice centered around him. And what really stands out is how it breaks down different aspects of his character, from his intellectual rigor to his mystical experiences. Like, did you know that near the end of his life, he had such a profound spiritual experience that he completely stopped writing?
That's quite a turn for someone who wrote thousands of pages of philosophical arguments.
Right, he actually told his secretary that everything he had written seemed like straw compared to what he had experienced. And you know what's fascinating? This brilliant logician who could argue circles around anyone essentially admitted that direct experience transcended all his careful reasoning.
So how does this 9-day practice, the novena, actually work to capture all these different sides of him?
Well, it's brilliantly structured to progress through different aspects of his character. It starts with his divine calling, then moves through themes like purity and humility, before reaching deeper topics like truth-seeking and charity. Each day includes specific prayers and scripture passages that illuminate these different facets.
That's quite different from how most people think of him, just as this dry, academic figure.
Exactly. And what's really relevant for today is his approach to education. He believed it wasn't just about accumulating knowledge, it was about developing wisdom and character. The novena actually includes this beautiful prayer, asking for things like penetration to understand and subtlety in interpretation.
Those sound like skills we could really use in our age of information overload and polarized debates.
You know, that's such an important point. His approach to debates was remarkable. He would always present his opponent's arguments in the strongest possible form before responding. Imagine if we did that today in our public discussions.
The way he integrated intellectual rigor with spiritual depth seems particularly relevant now.
And here's what I find most compelling. The supplemental materials for this novena include modern lectures about how his ideas apply to contemporary issues. There's this whole series called Aquinas 101 Inches that connects his medieval insights to current debates about ethics, emotions, and even the relationship between science and faith.
That's what makes historical figures truly remarkable, when their insights can speak across centuries.
And perhaps that's the most valuable lesson we can take from studying Aquinas. This idea that we don't have to choose between being intellectual and spiritual, between being rational and mystical. It's possible and maybe even necessary to integrate all these aspects of human experience.
Well, that certainly gives us a lot to think about in terms of how we approach our own search for truth and meaning.
And you know what? Maybe that's exactly what we need right now, this model of someone who could hold multiple perspectives together, who could engage with different viewpoints respectfully, and who ultimately recognize that there's always more to learn and experience.